Athens, an ancient metropolis often hailed as the cradle of Western civilization. This city was not only the birthplace of democracy, but also the home of some of history's most influential thinkers. From philosophy and science to art and politics, Athens has left an indelible mark on the world. Yet, its journey was far from a steady rise to greatness. The city has experienced periods of obscurity, upheaval and revival, shifting hands between powerful empires over the course of millennia. So how did a relatively unremarkable settlement in antiquity evolve into a beacon of intellectual and political thought, shaping the core principles that govern many modern nations? This is the story of Athens. The story of Athens stretches back thousands of years, with human settlements in the region dating to the Neolithic period around 7000 BC. As agriculture took root, the scattered communities gradually evolved into permanent settlements over 5,000 years ago. One of the earliest inhabited sites was a massive limestone hill, a location that would later become the heart of Athenian civilization, the Acropolis. By the 15th century BC, Athens had become part of the Mycenaean civilization, the first great power to dominate mainland Greece. Although not as influential as Mycenae or Pylos, Athens thrived as a centre of trade and culture, sharing many of the characteristics that would later define the classical Greek world. The city first appeared in recorded history in the 13th century BC under the name Athenae, supposedly in honour of the goddess Athena, who, according to legend, gifted the city its sacred olive tree. For centuries, the Mycenaean civilization flourished until it came to a sudden and mysterious end around 1100 BC. This catastrophic event, known as the Late Bronze Age collapse, led to the downfall of major Mediterranean powers. Cities were abandoned, trade networks crumbled, and writing systems were lost. This ushered in a period of decline known as the Greek Dark Ages. Unlike many of its contemporaries, Athens did not completely fall into ruin. Though weakened, it managed to sustain a population and preserve elements of its culture. However, with the loss of written records, knowledge from this era faded into obscurity. Stories of Mycenaean Greece survived only through oral tradition, giving rise to epic tales such as Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. As centralized rule faded, Greece fragmented into smaller, kin-based communities where power rested in the hands of local chieftains. This era laid the foundation for the future emergence of the polis, the city-state, which would become the defining political structure of ancient Greece. Athens, a city with a history spanning millennia, has undergone dramatic transformations from its early days in the Dark Ages to its emergence as a cultural and political powerhouse. Around 800 BC, as the Archaic period dawned, Athens re-established trade networks with the Near East and Egypt, leading to the adoption of the Phoenician writing system. This development facilitated the creation of the Greek alphabet and the revival of literacy, enabling the recording of laws, religious texts and poetry that had previously been preserved through oral tradition. Politically, Athens transitioned from monarchy to an oligarchic system dominated by aristocratic families. By the 8th century BC, power resided with magistrates known as archons, who governed in the interests of the nobility. The city expanded its territory throughout Attica, forming the largest and wealthiest state in mainland Greece. However, this expansion also intensified social inequalities, leading to unrest. One of the earliest attempts to address these tensions came from Draco, who introduced Athens' first written legal code in 621 BC. His laws were infamously harsh, giving rise to the term draconian. Yet they did little to resolve the struggles of the lower classes. In 594 BC, Solon, an archon, enacted significant reforms to reduce class strife, abolishing debt slavery, and restructuring Athenian society based on wealth rather than birth. Although his efforts broadened political participation, they did not eliminate factional rivalries, setting the stage for a power struggle. Pisistratus seized control of Athens in 561 BC, maintaining many of Solon's reforms while promoting economic growth. However, after his death, his sons, Hippias and Hipparchus, faced growing opposition. The assassination of Hipparchus led to Hippias's harsh rule, prompting his overthrow in 510 BC. This led to the rise of democracy under Cleisthenes in 508 BC, who restructured Athens' political system to break aristocratic dominance, expanding citizen participation and establishing the Council of 500. These changes laid the foundation for the democratic ideals that defined the city during the classical era. Athens reached its cultural and military pinnacle in the early 5th century BC. The city played a pivotal role in the Persian Wars, aiding the Ionian Greeks in their rebellion against Persia. In 490 BC, the Athenians triumphed at the Battle of Marathon. And a decade later, despite the sack of Athens by Xerxes, they achieved a decisive victory at the Battle of Salamis in 480 BC. By 479 BC, the Persians had been expelled from Greece, solidifying Athens' power. Following the Persian Wars, Athens spearheaded the Delian League, originally a defensive alliance that evolved into the Athenian Empire. Under Pericles, from 461 to 429 BC, Athens experienced its golden age, marked by architectural and artistic achievements such as the construction of the Parthenon. Intellectual advancements flourished, with figures like Socrates and playwrights like Sophocles shaping Western thought and drama. However, Athens' dominance bred resentment, leading to the Peloponnesian War from 431 to 404 BC against Sparta. Despite initial successes, internal strife and military defeats culminated in Athens' surrender in 404 BC, ushering in a period of decline. Though Athens never regained its former dominance, it remained an intellectual centre, producing philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle. However, in 338 BC, King Philip II of Macedon decisively subdued Athens at the Battle of Chaeronea. Under his son Alexander the Great, Athens' influence waned further as Macedon expanded eastward. Following Alexander's death in 323 BC, Athens unsuccessfully sought to regain independence, but remained under Macedonian control. The city later found itself entangled in the conflicts between Alexander's successor states before ultimately falling under Roman rule in 146 BC. Despite losing its autonomy, Athens retained its cultural prestige, with Roman elites, including Emperor Hadrian, investing in its architectural and intellectual institutions. Athens continued to thrive as a centre of learning well into the Roman period. By the 4th century AD, as Christianity gained prominence, Athens' classical institutions declined. The Byzantine Empire's rise saw Athens reduced to a provincial town, its ancient pagan sites repurposed as Christian churches. The city endured invasions, internal strife and changing rulers, becoming a minor outpost by the Middle Ages. In 1204, following the Fourth Crusade, Athens came under Frankish rule, governed by Latin lords who imposed feudal structures. Over the following centuries, control of the city passed through various hands, including Catalan mercenaries and Venetian rulers. The Ottoman Empire conquered Athens in 1458, initiating nearly 4 centuries of Turkish rule. Under the Ottomans, Athens saw religious and cultural shifts, with the Parthenon converted into a mosque and later used to store gunpowder, a decision that led to its partial destruction during a Venetian bombardment in 1687. By the early 19th century, as Greek nationalism surged, Athens played a role in the Greek War of Independence from 1821 to 1829. After Greece gained independence, Athens was declared its capital in 1833. Under King Otto, the city underwent significant modernization, transforming from a small town into a growing European-style capital. Athens continued to expand throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, hosting the first modern Olympic Games in 1896. However, the city faced hardships during World War II, experiencing Nazi occupation and later civil war. Despite this, Athens rebounded, undergoing industrialization and economic growth in the latter half of the 20th century. In 2004, Athens once again hosted the Olympics, marking a significant milestone in its modern resurgence. Though the city has faced economic challenges in recent years, it continues to stand as a testament to resilience and renewal, preserving the legacy of its illustrious past while evolving into a vibrant modern metropolis.